55% of companies will never hire more than 4 employees. There are thousands of these small companies in America, and they don't have an easy path. They struggle too. They are not your average companies. They are the 1004. This is the 1004 Show.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Thanks for joining us today for the 1004 Show. Today we're here with Max Depiro, president of UAPS, not UPS. He threw the A in there. It's Unmanned Aerial Propulsion Systems. Max, what's going on, man?
Hey, Zach. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Doing very well. I guess you got the memo to wear the exact same outfit as me. Thank you so much.
Just trying to be the best, look the best.
And that's why I'm trying to be you. So, you are about, 30 years old?
Yes.
And you recently graduated from the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, and while there, you had an itch, and that itch was to kind of jump on the entrepreneurial bandwagon, and you saw that you could start a company maybe in the drone space. Let's jump back and kind of figure out how the inspiration for UAPS started for you.
Yeah, actually, can I back up a little bit further too? Because I've been wanting to start a company for since I was an undergrad. So I did engineering undergrad at Buffalo, New York. Went to do a master's at the University of Virginia. When I was leaving the University of Virginia, I was right about 2010, and getting a job was 2010 for engineers was kind of difficult, especially with a master's. So I was trying to start.
Why was that difficult? Just because you wanted more money than people were willing to pay?
Yeah. Market, like having a master's was a weird niche. Most companies wanted just an undergraduate degree. They didn't really value having those extra 2 years, and yet I was valuing myself a lot higher because of that time and the education that I had and the experience level. So it was kind of a weird place. And so I put together a white paper on this like home generator thing, and I was trying to start a business, and ended up that this opportunity at NASA came up to do a PhD with them, and so I jumped on with that, but never really lost that itch to start a company, like you said. So when I was leaving NASA, it was a similar situation. I graduated, in February, or left NASA in February, finished the degree in March or May. And came up with, I think I was telling you about it. I was at a music festival in Coachella, and we're at a show, and I'm sitting there looking, enjoying the music, and in between songs, all of a sudden you hear this buzzing noise overhead, and it's this giant drone taking video of the crowd and the band playing, and we're all just kind of looking around at each other, making jokes, half smiling, because it's kind of unnerving having this giant drone overhead with these giant spinning blades.
What's giant?
And, it was about 1 meter in diameter, tip to tip. So they're pretty big.
4 feet. About 4 feet.
About 3 feet.
Okay.
A little over 3 feet. So they're fairly big. Anyway, so yeah, flying home, I'm on the plane, and I'm like, I had been working on this little project in my garage, doing like an electric jet. I should also add my background is in propulsion and aerospace propulsion. So I've always been like kind of tinkering stuff, and I'd been working on this little jet engine, but it really didn't have any application for anything. And I'm like, I wonder if I could tweak this and turn it into use it to meet the need of making this thing quieter. And then that sort of morphed into, well, safety is also a big issue. So can I tweak it and morph the design to address the safety issues, so that if something happens with this drone, let's say some idiot in the crowd throws a can or something up at the drone and it knocks it out of the sky so it doesn't chop people up, because it's got these giant, spinning blades around. They can have up to 8 or 16 blades around the vehicle.
And if they hit someone's hand,
it makes them all. It bloodies them up. It can. It's like
could they lose a hand from it in some of these cases?
Possibly. I know of a few cases where death has occurred from hitting these blades. But mostly just like lacerations and deep sliced wounds. You'd need stitches for sure.
So the real main problems that you saw at Coachella this past year were that, number one, maybe it's not the biggest of problems, but as you're listening to music, you look up and you see something that is loud and is obscuring the sound to be able to watch the rest of the show. And then number two is, oh my goodness, what happens if this 1 meter large drone, some idiot does throw a beer can and it hits me? We're going to put our hand up and we hit our hand, but imagine if that thing falls down and maybe hits your neck and you get cut there. So definitely a safety issue. I think what drones have provided for people in the last few years is seeing views that you've never expected possible. So people are loving the aspect of that. Obviously, there's some federal laws that are prohibiting it in certain places, but the people are getting views that they've never seen before. So I don't think it's something that's going to go away, but the safety is something that needs to be increased. You have a background in aerospace propulsion, and you had been tinkering around with a device to maybe get with this. So you're on the plane. How do you realize then to kind of put those two things together, and that you might have had, because a lot of people have ideas, right? But not everyone actually has the brains to be able to put an idea together. I know in my line of work, when the apps were a big thing, like a really big thing, everyone had an idea for an app, but they had no business sense and they had no engineering capabilities to develop that. So literally it was just an idea. You, on the other hand, are someone that has extensive education and extensive tooling in this kind of world. How did you kind of put the two together to realize that, hey, not only can I tinker this together, but I might be able to make some coin on it?
I think I've always had that, like, how could I take this hobby or this thing that I'm interested in and turn it into a business. But
being able to do that and saying that are two different things. Right?
Is it?
You don't think that a lot of people say that they could start a business and then can't actually sell it?
I don't know. All right. So for instance, like I like to make furniture. It was a big. I hesitate to call it a hobby because but like I have a workshop and I'll make like a dinner table or bookshelf, and I got really into it and I was trying to figure out, well, how could I leave my job at NASA and just do this? And so I start looking into the numbers, like, well, what kind of volume, how fast do I have to make these in order to actually support myself? And then what could I sell them for? And then what kind of volume, like, do people actually buy handmade furniture? And it's really hard to actually do that and make a living. So you go through the numbers and you're like, well, I can't make a business doing that, so I'm going to stay at NASA. Like, I can make a lot more money sitting, in my lab at NASA, even if I hate that job. It pays way more.
I think you've done something that most people don't do. I think people have taken the Shark Tank craze, they've taken the American dream craze of starting a business and never actually put some validators in front of it. So you did a lot of things that are very smart. You took your NASA salary, which it doesn't matter what it is. It's a number, right? And then you said, if I want to make furniture, what are some just random numbers that I have to put together to even get close to that number? Usually people take some sort of cut when they start their own career or their own business, but you realize that, hey, I can't do this. So when I said what I said before, it's most people will just up and quit their job and then wonder why things aren't happening. And you talked about Kenya and how you liked his interview. Kenya saw the same thing you did. Okay, how many cars do I have to wash to get there? Okay, people aren't coming to me. I have to go to them. Okay, so I'm walking down the street and I see a car that's dirty. I can do one of two things. I can keep driving or walking by it, Or I can knock on that person's door and say, "Hey, I have the skills and the ability to do that." So you're a little different in this case because you actually figured out numbers and realized that, hey, starting this business, even though I love crafting furniture, is not going to be something that I can sustain to create the lifestyle that I want. Okay, so let's say this now. The drones, the UAPS system, and what are you guys calling your first product?
Casper, the friendly drone.
Casper, the friendly drone. How clever. You realized you did some market validation or some market analysis on pricing of similar drones in the market, right? That didn't necessarily meet the quieter and safety regulations that Casper will. But what numbers made you realize that, okay, I can leave NASA? Because I think a lot of people want to leave their jobs, right? And I remember you telling me too that you had to convince your family that it was something that you could do as well.
Yeah, it was that was a much easier case because these things are selling for upwards of $12,000 or $25,000 a unit for the really expensive heavy lifting drones, and so really it wasn't the case for the drones because of the market is just, it's exploding, right? I mean, you look at the market numbers, that what they were 3 years ago to what they were 2 years ago, and just this past year, 2016, it's insane year over year. I mean,
it's a new product, so I mean, obviously, it's starting to get some real adoption, and
the new product newer applications are coming out daily, and new technology is opening up applications, kind of like what we foresee for Casper is opening up new opportunities for businesses to use drones and get aerial footage or throw new types of sensors on this thing. So really when we were doing our market analysis, it was before we even launched the company, it was, okay, where are we going to insert ourselves when we first launched the product? We didn't have a name. We didn't even really have a finalized design. We just knew that we wanted it to be safer and we wanted it to be quieter, and we knew we could do it technologically. There was a solution there. We didn't exactly know what it was or what it looked like. And so we said, okay, if we launch, we go after small to medium-sized businesses that are doing aerial operations, whether it be for music festivals or weddings. They have the ability to buy a more expensive product. So we have a lot more margin in there as we're scaling up production. So if our unit costs us $8,000 to build at first because all of our custom parts are so expensive, we could still sell that product and have a small profit on top of it.
Sure.
Because
you're looking at what, 4K alone right there. If no marketing, no other overhead on there, just parts alone, right, plus 4K on the lower end. And if you sold it for 25, I mean, you're 3 times the amount. And
so really the big question was, how do you value the safety and quietness over, how do you value that versus what's currently out there in order to choose your price point?
So how do customers value that?
That's an excellent question, and something I work on, something I think about all the time, and something I'm trying to figure out now.
Because obviously values are something that not everyone has the same opinion on it, right? And so, do you reach out to them? And
we put together, not to cut you off, put together a questionnaire that we're going out to customers with. So, just calling up customers, businesses, and saying, okay, here are a few questions. Like, do you use drones for your business? If not, why? What might be something that you'd like to see in a drone in order to get you to enter the market, for one. And then if they do use drones in their current business, what problems do they see? And without even bringing up what we're doing, try to get them to say, well, it's really noisy, so we have to do this. And then we'll say, well, hey, we have a solution for that. Or get them to say, well, people are really unnerved by them because they have, they're dangerous, and so that really, hinders us from being able to use our drone. And we'll say, hey, we have a solution for that. So that's sort of a way to figure out what value we can add
And this isn't your normal kind of B2C style drone either. So this is for someone that isn't just looking to take the drone on a snowy day down the street and just drive it down. This is commercial use, obviously at 12 to 25K a unit. Those are bigger ticket items.
Well, we're targeting 12K for our product launch. That's sort of mid market. I think the most popular drones are selling for 5 to 6. And then the really heavy lifting hovering drones are selling upwards of 12.
So Casper,
upwards of 25. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So Casper is not only the friendly drone, but also a more premium drone as well.
Right.
All right. So let me ask you a series of questions that maybe you don't think about a lot. How many hours do you work in a week? Actually work.
It's a good question. I'm not sure. Easily over 60 hours a week.
Do you think that your time is valuable when you're working that much?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in the office. Actually working is probably best. I'm in the office or at least in front of my computer, doing stuff in over 100 hours a week.
Wow, it's a lot. What is your favorite?
Maybe not over 100. Because, all right, I probably work 6, 7. I work at least 6 days a week. But it's easy for me to pop on and do stuff, whether it be coding or design work or writing proposals. I'll pop on, on a Saturday.
So you're one of those always working kind of guys.
Because you can fit. It's nice to be with today's technology. I keep all my stuff in a cloud type situation, so I can pull my files down, and if I have 5 hours of downtime or
sure.
Or whatever.
Do you have a relationship?
Not currently, no.
Okay. What is your favorite word?
My favorite word?
Yeah. See, these are tough questions.
They are tough questions. My favorite word.
What about favorite color?
Green.
There you go. Think about your favorite word. What was your first job?
First job was selling vitamins. I worked at a vitamin shop when I was 14.
How has that helped you grow into the salesman that you are now, even though you don't consider yourself a sales guy?
Learning about a product and really figuring out what it is and what it does and all the research involved behind it.
Okay. What is your favorite online tool?
Either probably OnShape. My CAD software it's a web browser based software.
Have you hired your first employee yet?
No, we're working on that though. I'm sending out solicitations and looking for someone now.
How did you know that was something that, number one, that you could afford? I think most people know that they want an employee in some capacity to help alleviate some of the pain and all the work, but understanding that you had enough financial backing to be able to hire that person so that you can stay alive, but then also they're gonna stay afloat as well.
Yeah, so having to take a job that's outside of this company is something that I'm having to do.
Yep.
So I've been fortunate to be able to not have to do that for the past 6-7 months.
So you're going to fund someone else by working another job?
Correct.
There's no ego there. That is awesome. I remember back in the day there were some things that I had to do to stay afloat, and you look back and you go, well, that's just what you had to do, and it makes you stronger at a later time.
I'm actually really fortunate to have the opportunity to be able to do that, because there's not a lot of jobs out there that you can be able to support yourself and then feel comfortable enough to hire someone.
Sure.
And but yes, I'll be managing someone to work on this, and I really need someone who has skills that I don't necessarily have, like a lot of the programming roboticist skills that I can learn, but would be better served to just have someone come in who has those skills that can plug in and do all the C++ coding and do a nice job wiring up and all the electronics work that need to be done.
So I 100% agree with that. But what's the value to that? So a lot of people would say, well, I'm just going to learn bookkeeping, or I'm just going to learn how to be a lawyer.
Because then I can do more the important business stuff, like contacting more customers. I really haven't had the chance to do that as much as I want to, and that's, to me, the sort of thing that gets easier if there's a big mental hurdle when you don't do it regularly. If you're an engineer sitting in front of a computer all day, it becomes, you get almost a social anxiety about calling someone on the phone or talking to someone, and so it's the sort of thing that gets easier with practice, with just doing it. So that's one aspect of it. Then the other thing is like writing proposals and talking to investors and
Have you raised money?
Just through family, friends right now.
And how did you approach them?
I approached them with this idea. After going to the music festival, I told them about the experience and then the technology and how I saw it, where I saw a solution that no one else did. And so then the tricky part was writing a proposal together, doing the market research to prove why what we had was so unique and why no one else was thinking about it. Because it seems obvious, right? Like, if you can make this thing quieter and safer. But technically, it's not necessarily obvious to do what we're doing. If you're an engineer, if you're like a propulsion guy and you'd look at my design and be like, why did you... It's not necessarily intuitively obvious why you would go that way.
So, business side, from a business standpoint aside, right? Let's just say that the technical piece of it and the business process and all that stuff is figured out. What about from the standpoint of these are your friends and these are your family? How much from an emotional standpoint were you thinking, oh my God, my dad is going to give me some money, and I'm worried that I might lose my relationship with my dad because I'm going to lose thousands of dollars from him?
I'm very lucky in that they're very supportive, and so that wasn't.
But they're supportive now, right? I mean, what happens when the company closes? Bearing that thing happen, have you guys had that conversation?
Yeah, so we had the conversation early on that this is extremely risky, and that most likely he was he was taking his cash out, piling it up in the driveway, and lighting it on fire. And to him, his perspective, it was, well, I'm giving my money to my son so he can live. And I think that was his opinion of it was and from my perspective, I'm scared.
You can cuss.
What?
You can cuss.
Okay. Yeah, I was scared shitless that it was just that's what it was going to be. So just working hard every single day. I think you posted an article the other day about grinding it out, and I was reading through it, I was like, that's what we do.
Yeah.
I remember finishing my PhD up, and I had a year left, and I had nothing. I had
no
nothing.
cash.
No PhD project. I had no PhD, and so I was super depressed, and I was like, look, I just need to fake it for a year so that people will at least think I tried, really. And it was just grinding it out every single day. You go in, you get something done, and after a year, I had a PhD project, and it was so it's sort of that, I go in, I get something done every day, and I think I'm mumbling a little bit. Anyway, it was a good article that you posted, and that's sort of the thing to tie it back to the original about my dad and not letting him down and not ruining that relationship. He knows that I'm here working every single day, grinding it out. We talk on the phone regularly about what I'm working on, and so he knows.
You guys set goals together?
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the last goal that you guys set?
The last goal we set was either getting funding in order for the next year or having to take this job. And so we were trying to raise capital. We had a lot of interest around investors. Most of them, our feedback was we needed more market validation, or we needed a little bit more maturity on our technology side. And so we're working on those two issues. And then so I'm taking that job to keep the company going. And then other smaller goals.
Was that a hard decision?
No, it wasn't a hard decision because it's what we had to do. When it comes down to a hard decision would be closing the company and just saying, oh, we're just going to stop doing it. That would be really hard. And in my mind, that never even entered. So the decision of having to take a job versus close the company, that's a no-brainer.
So you won Start Peninsula, which is build a company in a weekend competition. While there, you networked with a bunch of people. You made $10,000 and did that. The reason why a lot of these organizations put on events similar to that is because they want to, spur innovation and entrepreneurship and things like that. But what could they do to make things stronger for you so that it's not just about 3 days, and instead could make... So we've done an event similar in the past called Start Norfolk, and it was very similar and gave away even more money than that. And what I found is that it was a rah-rah cheerleader moment, and that what was important is to make sure that we did more on the after event than during the actual event, because those people who were serious, like yourselves, could really make a dramatic impact in the places that we live if we got behind them. And so what kind of things would you need more of to make sure that events like that can succeed? Because a lot of people think it's the money, right? And I think you're telling me that it's not necessarily the money.
It's definitely not the money. Though, I think a lot of the onus is on the contest winners themselves. Because I, as a business owner, now that I've had that exposure, I have all these people in the city that know who I am now.
So what have you done with it then?
What did you say?
Have you done anything with it since?
A little bit. So like one of the economic development people in Hampton, he's helped me link up with manufacturers in the area. He's told me about, you got to check out this company because they could help you manufacture prototypes.
But I think you said something that's really important, that a lot of people and this is where I think the Shark Tank effect is getting into people. They think it's super easy, right? You said the onus has to be on you, though. So if you want to succeed, it's you picking up the phone, it's you texting that person,
right.
It's figuring out how people respond. I mean, you and I joke about someone that we know that email. I was emailing this person. Well, email barely worked, but if you texted this person, he would respond back quicker and far quicker. And so I think it's important that people listening understand that everything that you want is because you raise your hand or go after it, not because you won some award or some cash. It's because you took that relationship and wanted to go deeper with it.
Right.
For someone that might be in your same shoes, that is thinking about maybe closing up shop, that maybe isn't making enough money, or just won a competition and wants more, and you're not growing as much as you are, what type of wisdom would you give them to say, hey, maybe you do need to take that full-time or part-time job and do this other thing as a side hustle for a little bit, knowing that it's going to swing back into the main hustle? Because I think a lot of people will push through, not make money, and then have to close down shop because they weren't bringing in money.
I mean, without. So if you've done your background research as a business owner, you know that there's a business case to be had. You didn't just convince yourself that, oh yeah, this can work. You've convinced other people. You've had smart people look over your research and they say, yeah, this really can work. Then you know that.
How do you know that you're at? So you said something there I think is interesting. You had other people look at it, right?
Yeah,
how do you know that those other people that looked at it are smart enough to understand that there is an actual market case for it?
Right.
Because I think my mom told me I was a great singer growing up, right? When I go in front of that person who's actually my market validator, they're like, you suck at singing, right? So how do you make sure that you're talking to the people that aren't just saying, yeah, but are actually saying, you need to be thinking about this a different way? How do you know that the people that you're going to talk to actually know that are going to give you good information? Because I think a lot of people will give you information, right? Someone said, oh, I watched this on Shark Tank. But how do you know, how was that person validated in your mind that they can actually make sure that you're making the good business case?
So I've gone to people who don't know me, that I really don't have a personal relationship with, but people who have a history, who have a background of either running a business, and across the board, I've talked to business people who don't necessarily know drones. I've talked to people in the industry of drones. I've talked to people on the technical side to make sure that all my analysis makes sense, and that
How many people do you think you talked to about this? 100? 10?
Hundreds. Yeah, no, a lot of. I mean,
so
hundreds,
it's a diverse portfolio of people asking this question as well. So business people, maybe service providers, people in the unmanned aerial space, the propulsion space, the drones. Yeah. I mean, so you're getting a lot of good feedback there.
You know what's interesting though too? A lot of people, especially engineers, we come up with ideas, right? And then we're too paranoid to go around talking about it.
So how do you get over that?
Drop that almost completely. You have to really look at your idea and figure out, okay, what is it that I can talk about the idea, but there might be specific things that I'm doing in there that I don't want to talk about. And so what? If someone goes out there and takes my idea, good. Let them go do it, because they're never going to beat me on how they do it. And even if they do,
so many people are afraid of what you just said.
I get it all the time. All the time, people say, well, don't talk about your idea. If I don't talk about my idea, I'm going to be in a vacuum. I'm not going to know, is it really a good idea? Is it something people want? Is it, and most of the time, people are usually excited about it and only want to help, because to take someone else's idea and have the passion to actually follow through on running a business is so hard. Even if they're an established company, to take just the idea and then go and do it.
And you can only get so much off of even a 1 hour meeting, let alone a 1 or 2 sentence meeting.
Yeah, no, definitely. And there are things that I will not say in public that are proprietary to the company that
you could say, hey, I'm Max Depiro. I have Unmanned Aerial Propulsion Systems, and we create a safer drone.
Yeah.
And that's like, there's nothing like, that's why people like, we live in a world where people are just so afraid to say this, and it's just like, look, talk to people.
Yeah. And even just so a bit showing like our design, like the outer mold of our design. It took me a long time to feel comfortable actually showing people images of it, because just the outer image, someone with the knowledge like myself can take an image and really pick apart, okay, what, sort of how is he doing this, or how might he do that? But there are things that in order to really make it work, there are details about the technology that would be really hard for them to.
And one of my favorite quotes is, everything happens for a reason. And so if you go up to that person and talk to them, maybe they can make you stronger, or maybe they can put you in front of other people. So we got Max Depiro of UAPS. He's the president. You guys can learn more about him and the Unmanned Aerial Propulsion Systems at UAPS.io. UAPS.io. Max, appreciate your time today, and best of luck moving forward in the future.
Thanks, Zach. Yeah.
Business made easy. Experts, templates, community, and results. Learn more today at 1004.com.